broken things can become a blessing if you let God do the mending. Welcome to Broken to be Blessed Network, where dynamic women will share their experiences that will inspire, and experiences that have turned out to be a blessing. Now here's your host, Samantha McNeil.
Welcome again to Broken to be Blessed Network. Today I have with me Chev Howell. Chev, how are you doing today?
I'm great, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Awesome.
Lovely. It's really a pleasure having you sharing with us today.
No problem.
Okay, go ahead and share a little about yourself with us.
All right, thank you again for having me, Sammy. I am an introvert, and as you stated before, I am Chev Howell. I'm very down to earth. I am a person who loves to be positive, and if there's anybody around me who is negative, honestly, I'm just going to ask you either to get rid of it or to exit my life. Also, I'm a person who loves to encourage others, and I think that's about it.
Okay, lovely. All right. So, what do you do for fun?
I'm a person who I love to shop. You know, I enjoy going shopping, hiking, and just exploring nature, and also traveling.
Okay, lovely. All right. So, what's your favorite food?
My favorite food. You're asking me for something that I really can't give a response to. However, if I should choose anything, I'll choose me some Jamaican cooked let me tell you, stew peas with white rice.
Okay. That's so lovely. Miss stew peas with white rice. I could eat some of that right now.
Oh my God, it took me a while to give a response because there are so many, so many things. All right.
Okay, lovely. All right. So our ears are all yours. Go ahead and share your testimony with us.
All right. My testimony this afternoon or this morning, this evening, whatever it is, wherever you are, is as it relates to where my mom got pregnant with me at an early age, and she was told that she should abort me. During that time, being young and being pregnant, what a response to give someone of such an age, to abort the child. As a matter of fact, where's she gonna get the money? Who is she actually gonna go to actually abort the child during that time? And I can only imagine how she felt during that time. And when she gave birth to me, it was just a happy feeling for my family, even though, during that time, getting pregnant, a lot of persons had many things to say. But as I grew, she would normally say to me, that man is your father, but he doesn't care for you. And she even shared the story of, being pregnant, and persons would normally tell her, why not abort the child? But then as I grew older, I started to think to myself, you know what? Purpose cannot be aborted. And then that is something that stood with me for a number of years. And based on her story, she said that when she got pregnant, everybody, like people around, had so many things to say, so many hurt things to say. Why did you get pregnant, and why not throw the child away? And you don't hear that so-and-so is pregnant, and the list goes on, and how people would normally say stuff, negative things about individuals back then. But it's been 30 years, and here I'm standing today. And as I grew older, I started thinking about how is it my mom felt, being pregnant and hearing that, it's not that man's child, or the name is being called on somebody else, and you're saying, he looks like X, or he looks like Y, he doesn't look like the father, she doesn't look like the father. And I'm thinking to myself, how is it she would have felt during that period of time, being so young and being pregnant with a child? And for years I thought about it, and I wouldn't say I didn't struggle, but I struggled more with how my mom felt during that time than how I would be feeling that time, knowing that my father didn't care for me. But then I have been encouraging myself over the years to say that, listen, he doesn't care for you, so what? But you know, one thing I've learned over the period of time is that God, everything that is done is well done. And having grown up, I have other siblings, they have their father, but guess what? The Lord would have provided it that my stepfather would be there, my grandfather would be there, my other family members, they would be there showering me with love, you know, so I didn't feel left out or feel, you know, as if I'm the only person who doesn't, within my family, doesn't have a father to say, oh, daddy, a biological father. But I had persons who stepped in. And I could only imagine during that time how my mom felt. So those were the only thoughts that keep on ringing in my ears to say, oh, she must have felt like, hey, nobody really cares if they're going to tell her, oh, the child looks like someone else, when she knows who she would have slept with at that time. And while growing up, I would hear people saying, oh, X is not your father. And persons would say, oh, you don't look like them. And then I'm thinking to myself, okay, that's what you say. But, you know, my mom, she sat me down from a very tender age and she would say to me, listen, people, they've been saying X, Y, Z, but listen, you're not going to listen to them. You're going to pass the worst. And I mean, people in the community, people all around, when they hear me with a particular last name, they were like, oh, really? Oh, you're the one that you're talking about? Oh, but I heard that, you know, you're not the man's child. And I'm thinking to myself, why is it as a child you're coming to me with such information? And I recall when I was much younger, I was attending this church function and a young lady, you know, said to me, oh, Mr. X is not your father. And I'm like, how would you know? And the child was even younger than I am at the particular time. And honestly, I cried. One reason why I cried was because the persons around me within my age group at that time, they never know, hey, your father didn't care for you. But for her to just come out openly and said that, I was scarred at that time. And then I think to myself, okay, you're a child and yet still you're able to come out expressively with such a statement. It simply means that something is being said, you know, around you. And over the years, you know what, my parents, mother, my stepdaddy, and my grandma, and all the persons within my family, they always shower me with love. And I kept on saying, you know what, one day I'll live to tell the tale. I'll be the one to say, okay, even though he did not take on his responsibility and he never cared for me, even though he did not take on his responsibility, the Lord has taught me that, listen, Chev, you can make it. There's nobody that you need to depend on except me. And had it not been for God, I would not be where I am standing today. And, you know, I wouldn't say it was a rough path for me because, you know, once you tell a child or lay it on the table to the child as early as possible, then that can help with the child's self-esteem and also the child's growth and development. Because I grew with the thing to say, oh, here's your dad, but he doesn't care for you. However, keep pushing, keep going, you know, despite all that is being said about you. Or, you know, people even said, oh, she will never come out to anything good. And, you know, those are people who I thought for a while had much more sense, you know, because your past or your current situation doesn't determine, or they have no control over what your future will look like or what your future will be. And honestly, looking back, I have no regrets to say, oh, I'm sorry that my father didn't care for me. I'm one of the happiest person alive because through it all, I've learned so much not to depend on other people to survive, but to depend solely on God. I recall back in the days when, you know, you want something or you're in need of something and you ask, and I would ask my mother for it. And she would say, Chev, you know, I don't have it. And she would say, Chev, pray about it. And so right there and then, that's teaching me to actually go to God, asking God for whatever it is that I needed to fulfill the need that I wanted. And the only way I know I would get it is through prayer. So right there and then, my mother was directly and indirectly showing me or teaching me to depend solely on God and not on her, you know, even though she was not a single mother per se, but, you know, being the first of all the other kids and the only one without a father. My stepfather was there. He played the role and he did pretty well. And everybody else around me, they, you know, came in and they helped where they could. And honestly, as I said before, I have no regrets. Looking back, I'm just all in smiles. I'm just all in awe with whatever God has done for me. And you know, one thing I do is to encourage myself, or I have been using to encourage myself to say is that, hey, had it not been for God on my side, I don't know where would I be. And guess what? I oftentimes tell myself, it's not what people say about you or what they say to you that determines who you are, but knowing who you are and whose you are, that's paramount. You don't need anything else. You don't need to be listening, oh, they say X about me or they say Y about me, but who cares? And you know, even while walking in the community, you hear people, they might be thinking that, oh, they're whispering, but you can literally hear them. You can literally hear them. They're whispering, but they see you coming and they go to a particular side and say, wait, no, XYZ daughter that come in, you never hear. Or somebody might have heard, you know, somebody might have been visiting from a different area and realizes that I pass a particular area, then they'll be like, oh, she that they hide in corners looking. And I'm thinking to myself, hey, you're an adult. Why are you hiding? And so today, I lift all my hats. I lift all my praises. I give God glory for everything because, hey, you don't need a dad or a biological father to survive. The only person that you really need to survive is God. And that is something that I've learned over the years.
Wow, awesome. I know that can be a lot, but I heard you mention that your family was a good support for you. But yeah, was there any point in time that there was a breaking point for you? You felt any way that you were confused or any way that you could not deal with that situation?
If my memory serves me well, there might have been different situations or different occasions where I felt that way. But honestly, it never took a toll on me per se to say that, hey, this is going to affect my self-esteem or was affected greatly. One of the reasons was because my mom told me, and she would like literally, you know, say to me on a, not really a daily basis, but consistently, Chev, your father doesn't care for you, so keep pressing, keep going. You know, your family loves you and they're standing behind you. So I wouldn't say that there was a point in my life where I would just cry over the whole situation because, hey, everybody else has a father and I don't. No, it wasn't that for me. But I recall an instance where I was saying to myself, but what would have caused this? You know? Hey, you know where your child lives. You see the child, but still, what's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong? You know, you can't even say hi to the child, you know? So I thought about that, but it never affected me greatly. I'm gonna be honest with you. It wasn't like something that caused me to become depressed or caused me to go beyond asking God, why? Or asking my mother, why? But that particular instance, you know, I thought of it, but I never dwelled on it to say, hey, Chev, then Wamek, and then allowing it, the whole situation or the questions that, you know, came to mind to cause me to have like a negative impression towards the other, towards another person. One thing I must add though, you see, I've never heard my mother saying anything that's negative about my father. I've never heard it. I've never heard it out of. She doesn't say anything that's negative about him. The only thing that she keeps on saying, hey, he doesn't care for you, girl, but keep going. You're going to pass the worst. You're going to pass the worst. So honestly, if my memory serves me well, maybe like back then I might have been affected, but I can't recall a situation where it has greatly impacted me or caused me to actually, you know, feel like an outcast or anything.
I heard you very, very, very profound, and we're going to get to the point where you're going to encourage persons, because I know of persons who have been in this situation and it really affect them negatively. And even right now, as we speak, we might have persons who are going through that. So we'll get to that where you will encourage person and use your experience to just to help them to develop that strength. But I heard you mention that you thought of how your mom felt. Have you ever spoken to her about how she felt at that time?
I've spoken to her, and she would say to me she was hurt. She's hurt, or she was hurt during that time, because I mean, even persons she thought would have given her some moral support, they did not provide that cushion to say, even though you got pregnant, there is still hope. That wasn't provided for her. Her mom was there, her father was there for her, and her siblings were there, but some other family members, they went aside and they had a lot to say. They criticized her and all these things. But she said to me, you know what, Chev, I've oftentimes tell myself, you're going to make a difference. And even though they say abort you, my grandma would not have that. My mother would not have that. I remember it reached a point where it was escalating, where persons, keep on saying stuff. It's not your father, it's not your father, it's not your father. As I say, it never affected me because I have no form of emotions towards this man or anything. He's just like an ordinary man. And it reached the point where my mom was planning, not really my mom, but my grandma was saying, why not change her last name? Because if it's causing a problem, or, people keep on saying that, why not change her last name? And then they were further advised not to, but just to keep it. Because, if you change it, people are going to say you're confused about who the father is. When in fact, she knows exactly who it is. But then the man was running from his responsibility of caring for a child during that time.
And we find this so often, but to God be the glory, great things he has done. You can sit here today, and before we were even thought about, God knew that we would have had this, he would have created this vision, and we would have been here today, and that you can speak to somebody and encourage them that, hey, in spite of what persons say, and whatever the situation might be, you can still hold your head high, still depend on God, and still become all that he has created you to be. So go ahead and just to speak to persons who would listen, who are going to listen, who are going through the situation, who are just not sure about the identity, the history, all of those things, and just to pour into their spirit right now.
All right, so as I said, my story is unique, but it's not unique. It's unique to me because everybody's situation is different. Everybody would have had their own fair share of what it's like for some persons who have not had the opportunity of, knowing their biological father, even though I knew who he was. And but yet still he wasn't playing his role. He didn't show, any form of care or any love or anything, which wasn't a problem for me, as I stated before. But for some persons who might be struggling and is still struggling and have not yet passed that period or that stage of their life, I just want to say to you, God is able. And God knows exactly why your father, your mother did not care for you. Had it not been for him, you would not have been in the position that you currently is in now. And if you should look back over the years that you have been alive, you would have known that it is all God. Father wasn't there, mother wasn't there, but God stood for you. He made a way. He provided someone to actually stretch forth and offer some form of assistance to you. That is why you're still standing. And guess what? If you're 30 odd, if you're 40 odd, if you're 50 odd, if you're 15, 16, you name it, you've passed some of the worst stages in your life. And trust me, God knows exactly what or why it happened and when it happened, and just about everything that has to do with you. And what I've learned over the years is that God, when he does stuff, it's well done. And so if he wanted that person to care for you, he would have provided the avenue through which that particular person, but maybe, who knows, he might want to teach you to solely depend on him. And some of you might be pregnant and have your kids. The father is not present. Trust me, just as how the Lord made a way for my mother and my other family members to support me, he's going to make a way for you. Some persons, as I said before, the situation might be similar, but you might not be able to overcome that which you're going through. Just remember, forgiveness is key. And I remember, Samantha, I told my dad, I forgave you. Without him even asking me for forgiveness, I said to him, I forgive you. I say, I forgive you. I say, you might not understand why I forgave you, because you did not care for me, but trust me. I'm not looking for anything. I'm not looking for financial assistance. I'm not looking for anything. I do not want you to try to fill the gap that that was supposed to be filled many moons ago. I'm not asking for that. But I just want you to know I've forgiven you. And sometimes it all depends on how mature you are mentally to do that, because not many persons are able to say that. Oh, he did not stretch forth his hand and assist when my mother needed it. So why is it I should forgive him? Huh? Why is it I'm not supposed to help him? But then the Lord would have it that somewhere along the line, both of you are going to come in contact, and the Lord is going to allow both paths to be cleared. And today I can say, my father and I, we communicate.
Okay, I was just going to ask that.
We do communicate. So it's not like, hey, I'm bitter towards you or nothing. No. He's just like another man, So that's it for me. So whatever.
So how did you guys connected?
How did we connected?
Since he did not have a relationship with you growing up.
Okay. It was through a point where I've decided that, hey, this man is not going to step forward and say anything. So being the person who I am, sometimes can be feisty. I stepped forward and I approached him and I asked him, because if things are going around, Samantha, to say, hey, it's not that man's child, I'm gonna confront you. I'm grown enough to make that approach. I'm bold enough to make that approach now, and I did make the approach. I wasn't timid or anything, and I approached him. I said, sir, are you my dad? Oh my God.
What did you say?
The response was yes. And then I said to him, I said a few stuff to him. I said, well, okay. I just wanted to make clear, because I heard that you said XYZ about me. And I've heard what those around you have stated. Trust me, being a child growing up, people will say stuff not knowing that you understand exactly, that you understand exactly what they're saying. I said, I've heard it all. But one thing I must say, my mother has never yet said anything negative about you. And so she has told me her side of the story. So what's yours? I want to know. I want to hear. Because I know for a fact that my mom is not lying. She's telling me the truth, because she cannot be telling me that, hey, he didn't care for you, XYZ happened. She's not going to be telling me that, as a young child, for me to live with it. And even today, her story has not changed. And several times I've asked her that, because I want to know whether or not her story is still the same and the story is constant. And when I heard his side of the story, I was rather surprised. My mom's side of the story was very clear. I'm still trying to understand because of the statement that was made, just one statement, which would at the end say, yes, he is. But then due to circumstances, he did not play his role. But through it all, I've learned to trust in Jesus. And today.
So you don't have to tell us how old you were, but you said that you were in adult age when you approached him.
Approached him, yes. I was around, let me tell you how old I was. I think I was around 26, 27, somewhere there. Okay. So it's not a long time ago, because when I approached him, I would have accomplished, certain things. I would have accomplished certain things, I think that was like after leaving college and working for a number of years, and I decided that, you know what, I'm going to step up and I'm going to approach this man and I'm going to hold a conversation with him to see. So I'm not ashamed to share my story with people, because there are a lot of persons out there. A lot of persons don't know.
Yes, there are a lot of persons.
But
Yeah.
Yeah, don't know. So for me, I oftentimes share my story with people around me or those persons that come in contact to say, listen, you can make it despite all that you've been through. You know, my story might be different from yours, but hey, you don't need a father, you don't need a mother to accomplish. You just need the right mindset and the right people around you who are like destiny helpers and who are able to help to build you up. Because the truth is, if you should listen to what people say, and if I should listen to what persons were saying about my mother and my family, and you know, he's not your father and this and that, and even though you might have a few persons saying it, a lot of persons don't know that him and I communicate even today, you know. So they're still having the notion to say, oh, he's not his child, when he admitted to me to say that, yes, Chev, you are my child. However, circumstances, you know, would have prevented me. I was just young and dumb during that time, and I, you know, was inexperienced and all these things. So I said, all right, here today we communicate. You know, he checks in on me, I check in on him, and then that's about it. You know, we have no shades thrown at each other. And the truth is, I wouldn't say I want him to feel any less of a person, no. As human beings, we make mistakes. But then some persons might have thought that my mother getting pregnant at a young age would be more harmful to her than any good. But today, I am a product of purpose.
Yes, amen. Yes.
Not abort purpose. And here I am.
Yes.
But it's my hands to God. I lift my hands to God. I give God praise because all my life, He's been faithful to me. He's been faithful.
Amen. Amen. And the word of God says what? When the mother and father forsake you, the Lord will?
God will take me down. Honestly.
Yes. And that's beautiful. Purpose cannot die, and purpose will not die. And you are, in fact, a living testimony of purpose. And as I said before we were even thought of, it was destined that God would have given me the vision for Broken to be Blessed Network, and we'll be here. And this testimony is going to reach some persons, because I know persons, I know even workers of guidance council, I know how children can be when their father or their mothers are not a part of their life. Being in foster home and being adopted and all these things, it really affect them. Persons say negative things over their life really affect them. I know persons who, even as adults right now, they are still blaming their parents for not doing stuff and not holding and say, okay, I am purpose. I came here, I didn't die, and I'm gonna make the best of life. But they are still going back to what did not go and what didn't start right and all of these things. But I am glad that you were able to share with us. And that you're one of the bold ones to go and to question and to know and to make that connection. That's nice.
Tammy, let me share one thing I did. And I think at that time I was around 13 years, and I was walking, and the gentleman saw me. He was standing with his friends, and he called me over, and he was bright enough, he was bold enough to ask me if I know who he was. So I'm like, no. But honestly, during that time, I knew who he was. But the truth is, I know him, but I don't know him. I know that you're my father, but I don't know you. And honestly, this is what I did, being 13. And today, sometimes I think about it. Was I rude? Was I being feisty or not? But I don't think so. I was just being myself. And he asked me, do you know me? And I'm like, no. I said, who are you? He was like, honestly, you don't know me. And then he was like, all right, if you don't know who am I, then all right, you can go on, you can go. And his friend was standing next to him, and you know what I did? I walked over to the friend. And because if he's gonna say to me, seeing you don't know who am I, then you can go. So I'm like, okay, you're trying to flat my style here? All right, I'm gonna show you something. honestly, Sammy, I walked over to his friend and I said, who is he? As I said before, I know who he was. And he said, oh, you don't know him? That's your dad, XYZ. And I'm like, okay, thank you. And I walked over to him and I said, hi. And I called his name and I said, nice meeting you. And I walked off. Was I being rude? No.
You didn't know.
I was only 13. I wasn't being rude. And if anybody says I'm being rude, anybody out there saying I was rude as a child, no, I wasn't.
Oh my God.
I wasn't being rude. I was just being myself. I was just being bold. You know, he was bold enough to approach me. Do you know who am I? Do you know me? I know you, but I don't.
Yeah.
And so.
Yeah.
But
So,
that was the past, though.
yeah, God is good.
God.
Thank you again, Chev, for sharing with us on Broken to Be Blessed Network. And I'm sure that persons are going to be encouraged by your testimony. Thanks again and have a wonderful day.
All right. You too. Thanks for having me. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.